Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, June 26th. In our devotion for today, I want to continue with our new theme of looking at how we can worship God throughout the day, throughout every moment of our life. It sounds unrealistic, but we can spend a lot more of our time focused in worshiping God even throughout the normal day when we're doing normal activities. To do this, we're going through the Psalms and we're looking at principles of worship or acts of worship or values to worship or ways to worship God that might be beyond what we normally experience on a Sunday morning. Today's reading comes from Psalm chapter 5. Listen to my words, Lord. Consider my lament. Hear my cry for help, my King and my God, for to you I pray. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. Not a word from their mouth can be trusted. Their heart is filled with malice. Their throat is an open grave. With their tongues they tell lies. Declare them guilty, O God. Let their intrigues be their downfall. Banish them from their many sins, for they have rebelled against you. But let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. In this psalm, it begins as a lament. The writer is basically crying out to God and expressing all the stuff that's wrong. Life is going bad. There's something difficult. In fact, many of the Psalms are laments. They're when we express our grief, our struggles, our hardships to God. Sometimes we think that we ought not to do this because it comes close to complaining, but there's a very big and distinct difference between a lament and a complaint. A lament is expressing our emotions to God. It's expressing how we feel. God already knows how we feel. So we do the lament for our own benefit, not for God's benefit. A complaint is not when we just express what we feel, but when we demand that someone else change it. When we go before God and we say, God, you better do something about this. You better change my life. When we dig in our heels and we lay blame at the feet of someone else and say, do something. When we grumble, when we say, you owe me. When we take someone else and through the unhealthy way of throwing our emotions at them, we tear them down and make them miserable so that they can be miserable but like us. That's complaining. Lamenting is very different. Lamenting is when we're open and honest and inviting someone else to come and listen and sit beside us as we express our grief. We're not laying blame and we're not demanding that someone fix it. That's the difference between a complaint and a lament. In the psalm, it begins with, listen to my words, Lord, consider my lament. So this person is going towards God in worship and they're lamenting. They're expressing their grief, their feelings, whatever emotions or hardships they're experiencing. They are letting it off of their chest. They're not complaining, but they are expressing their emotions. And then the key about why lament leads and lament is part of worship and it leads us in worship. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness, verse 8 says. Let all who take refuge in you be glad, verse 11 says in Psalm 5. What that means is that when we lament, what we're doing is we're going forward and we're expressing our grief, our frustrations, our anger, all the emotions we have to God. And then we're saying, God, don't fix it. We're not blaming you, God, but lead us out of this horrible circumstance. We will follow you. We will do what you say. Instead of digging in our heels and saying, God, I'm not going to obey you until you do give me something, which is what a complaint is. A lament is saying, God, this is too much for me. Lead me. Let me take refuge in you. It's a big difference. But I don't want us to feel afraid to express our emotions to God. Lament is good. Lament is part of worship. It's another way that throughout the day, when the day seems like it's too much for us to handle, when our anger is boiling over or we want to yell at someone, we can take time to pause and to lament either to God or to a good friend. And we can say, this is part of worship. This is a healthy way of expressing and dealing and working through our emotions. Lament is good. Lament is part of worship. Complaining, that's not so good. It's just trying to make other people as miserable as you. Amen. Amen. It is Friday. That means this Sunday we have worship 9 o'clock live on Facebook, as always. Also, it'll be posted on YouTube as soon as the worship service is over. In the meantime, take care of yourself and check in on those who are most vulnerable. Amen.